Hey, Sam here from Sugar Spun Run, and today we are making a brown sugar Swiss meringue buttercream. So I feel like most home bakers in the United States are very familiar with classic American buttercream. You know, the kind that's just made using butter and powdered sugar and a little bit of vanilla extract. Now that frosting is great and all, but it is a little bit sweet. So for a less sweet, more buttery, silky smooth frosting, a lot of home bakers will make Swiss meringue buttercream instead. Swiss meringue does take a little bit more work. We're going to be making this on the stovetop, but it is really a recipe that's friendly for even somewhat beginner bakers. It's not super complicated, so I want to go through all of the steps with you so that you can make this at home. I do have a classic Swiss meringue buttercream, but this brown sugar version is my current favorite. It has a lovely depth of flavor to it. I think you're really going to like it, so let's get started. First, let me talk about this contraption that I have set up here. This is just a double boiler. For today's recipe, you are really going to want to use your stand mixer. I am going to be using both a whisk and paddle attachment, and we're going to start with our mixer bowl. You'll need a pot that you can set the mixer in. I have filled this with about 1.5 inches of water, and I want to be able to set my pot in it without the pot touching the water. So this is our double boiler that we're going to be using for cooking our egg whites and sugar together, which is going to be the base of our meringue. If you were wondering if you can make this with a hand mixer instead, technically the answer is yes, but you need a strong electric mixer, a strong arm, and a lot of patience because it's going to take quite a bit of time. I often do not use my stand mixer in my videos, but for this recipe, I think it is definitely worth bringing it out. So I'm actually going to take this off of my pot of water for now, and I'll turn my stovetop heat on to like a medium low, and I want to bring this to a simmer. So not like a full rolling boil, but a simmer. Just gonna slide this out of the way and we'll start getting our other ingredients together. So we're making a meringue. Anytime we're working with egg whites, we want to be very careful about not getting any water or oil in with the egg whites. So this bowl needs to be completely clean, dry, and grease-free. Some people will even wipe it out with a little bit of vinegar and let it dry before they use it. I don't usually do that, but you can. For our eggs, you're going to need 6 large egg whites for this recipe. Make sure you don't even get a little tiny bit of egg yolk in there or it's not going to whip properly. So if you already have your egg whites measured out and you need to know how much to use, you are going to fill your measuring cup right between that 3/4 and 1 cup line, 7.5 ounces or 210 grams. So I'm going to add these to my mixing bowl. And next I'm going to add my sugar. So we need 1 3/4 cup of firmly packed brown sugar. Personally, I like to use a blend of half light brown, half dark brown sugar. This is 350 grams in total. Brown sugar is going to go in, and the light brown sugar. Also going to add my salt at this point. We're going to be adding a 1/2 teaspoon of table salt, and I'm just going to whisk these ingredients together, break up that sugar, get everything nicely combined. Then, once my water is simmering, again, I don't want a boil, I don't want anything too aggressive or rapid, I'm going to place this over the water. Got a nice bit of steaming, some gentle bubbling going on, and we are going to whisk this pretty much constantly until the sugar is completely dissolved and the mixture has reached 165 degrees Fahrenheit. I do use an instant read thermometer, which I have here. Keep that handy to check the temperature. And checking the temperature is going to assure us that the egg whites are cooked completely and safe to eat. Now do not crank up your heat and do keep whisking. Otherwise you could end up cooking your egg whites, which is just a mess, and then you have to start over. And when I say cooking, I mean like scrambling. We want to cook them slowly, gently, but we want them to stay liquid. We do not want to scramble them. I also do take care to pay attention to any sugar rising up on the side of the bowl and knock that down into the mixture as well. Another thing you can do to make sure the sugar is dissolved, now do this carefully, is you can put a little bit of the syrup between your fingers and rub it, and it should feel smooth and not gritty. Just don't burn yourself when you do that. Proceed with caution. Now mine does feel pretty smooth, so I'm going to start checking the temperature. We still have a ways to go. We're only at 125 degrees Fahrenheit. This does take some patience. I think we're getting close. Okay, so we're hitting 165. I don't have any grain from the sugar, so I'm going to immediately remove this from heat. And like I said, you are going to want to use your stand mixer, so hopefully yours has magically appeared like mine has. Make sure you dry off the bottom and sides of your bowl, and then we're going to drop this right on our mixer, fitted with a whisk attachment for now. Don't need this one anymore. All right, we're going to go ahead and beat this meringue on medium to medium-high speed until we have stiff peaks. I know a lot of you have been wanting me to use my stand mixer. I get so many comments about it, so today, I hope you're happy. Another thing that I want to talk about is your butter. You will need 1.5 cups, or this is 3 traditional sticks of butter. What is that in grams? 339 grams of butter. I'm using unsalted butter, and I want to talk about the butter even though we don't need it just yet, because it's very important that your butter be not too cold and not too hot. Otherwise, you could have problems with your frosting separating or curdling. I like a temperature of like 68 degrees where there's still a very, very slight chill to it, like a very subtle slight coldness, but it's not still actually cold, and you could, make an indent in it with your finger pretty easily, but it's not melty or oily. The temperature is actually pretty important with this recipe, and if you don't use butter that's the right temperature, you set yourself up for failure. Okay, let's take a look. I think we have a little bit further to go, but you can see how much this has increased in volume and just changed shape. So for stiff peaks, we are looking for, see that peak right there? So that's a little tall to be realistic, but see that peak? When you fold it over or you flip it over, that peak should hold firm. We're not quite there yet, but we are getting there. Keep going. Okay, locked it. So you can see the whisk is nicely filled with that frosting. That's a pretty good sign it's done. Let's go ahead and dip our spoon in. And there you can see, hopefully, maybe you can see here, that we have stiff peaks. So now at this point, what we're going to do is we are going to want to make sure our bowl cools down completely before we go any further. So if you touch the bottom of the bowl, it shouldn't feel warm to the touch. Mine's still a little bit warm, so I'm going to give it just a couple of minutes before I move on to adding my butter. Okay, once our bowl has cooled down, we're going to swap out this whisk attachment. I'm trying to do it backwards here. Give me a second. Get all of that frosting out of there. I mean, you can do this while the bowl's cooling down too. No frosting left behind. Anything left behind will be a snack. We'll add our paddle attachment. We're going to start mixing this, and as we mix it, we're going to add our butter 1 tablespoon at a time. Again, we talked about this earlier, the temperature is very important. Now, after we've added 1 tablespoon, we are not going to add the next tablespoon until the previous one has been completely incorporated. If you add your butter too quickly, it's going to break, it's going to get messy. Now, at some point, it's possible that as you go through this, you're going to notice the frosting starts to look a little bit funny, maybe even looks like it's breaking. This can be a normal part of the process, so just keep going. I find it usually happens after I've added most of the second stick of butter. Just keep going according to plan and things should come together just fine. Now, if you keep mixing and it still doesn't come together, I am going to compose a troubleshooting section. I'll put that on my website with just more detailed information about how to fix things if they happen to go wrong. I say like 99% of the time you can fix a Swiss meringue that goes wrong. And this is medium speed I'm using to mix everything together. Look, she helped me make Swiss meringue buttercream for both of the boys' birthdays. What do you think? Should we put some more butter in? Yeah, some more butter. Yeah, let's do it. I do want to pause right here just so you can kind of see what I talk about. This isn't truly a broken icing, but it's starting to look a little bit separated, and most of the time this is just going to get better if you keep adding butter slowly. We're not ready to add the next tablespoon yet. I can still see a little bit, but it'll normally get better if you keep mixing. I just want to show you this so you don't panic if yours starts to look like this. Let me see if I can get you a close-up. So we keep mixing. All right, let's add our last tablespoon. Get that mixed in. All right, so all our butter has been added and incorporated, so we're just going to stop, scrape down the sides and bottom of the bowl. Texture's looking pretty good. And then I'm going to turn this to high speed and beat it just a couple more seconds, or like another minute. I want it to look smooth and thick. All right, and we're also going to add some vanilla extract for flavoring. It's gonna give it a nice depth of flavor. I like a teaspoon of vanilla extract. I've tried this recipe with more, but even 1.5 teaspoons makes it a little bit too rich. I think I'd say it's just not as good with more vanilla. So let's mix that in. It is beautiful. I just want to make sure I have everything incorporated because I want that vanilla flavor all throughout the frosting. Our quick start. All right, at this point, your frosting is ready to use. You can spread it on a cake or you can pipe it on cupcakes. I'm going to pipe it briefly for you, just that way you can see how nicely it pipes. Let me make a little space here. Easy way to fill a piping bag if you don't have free hands. Put your tip in the bag, grab yourself a large glass, hold the tip up, hold over the top of the bag. Woo! The trigger's a little sensitive on that one. If only I had another mixer. Before I do that, I just want you to see how nice this frosting is. It's nice and silky. Go ahead and add our frosting to the piping bag. I'll go ahead and twist that down, and you can use a bench scraper to scrape down any frosting. When using a piping bag, always make sure to squeeze from the top. All right, I don't have any cupcakes on me right now. Shocking, I know, so we're just going to pipe it in this little dish right here. And in case you do want to use this tip for piping, this is the Attico 848. Remember, always start from the top and twist as you go. So you can see this is a nice and sturdy frosting. It pipes well, it spreads well. I think you're really going to love it. It has an incredible depth of flavor. If you try it, let me know what you think. I really do always love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. That is lovely. What do you think, Ella? No fuzzy head? Do you like it? I just love her. She likes the mixer. What do you think of this mixer, Ella? No? That one? But what about that one? Blue one?